If I can't hear my name being called once, and it goes, I will sue this company.
It's the last chance for this to come. I put on the paper tomorrow.
That's your choice,
Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So it seems like many of you really liked the video I did about Airline UK because the video now has over 200,000 views. And because many of you said you wanted more Airline UK content, I thought I would make some more videos about it. We all know that there were many crazy freakouts on Airline UK, and another great YouTube channel called Arthur TV did a whole series about these freakouts, so make sure you go and check out his channel. But I thought I would focus on some different crazy moments that happened on the show. So here are 5 unhinged passenger moments from the TV show Airline UK. And with that, let's get started. Wants to smoke on a plane. The first clip today is a very short one because I couldn't find the full clip, but it comes from Series 1 of Airline UK, which was back when the show was focused on an airline called Britannia Airways, rather than the later series which was focused on EasyJet. And this lady in a very fetching Adidas top has asked to purchase 600 fags, or cigarettes, on board, and is angry that she can't smoke them on the plane.
So why have you just sold me 600 fags if I can't smoke one? Come on, that's not on that.
I think that this is funny because it seems so obvious to us today that of course you can't smoke on a plane, and I'm sure so many of you probably think this woman sounds like a bit of an idiot. But I guess you have to keep in mind that this show came out in 1997 and air travel was quite different back then. I did a bit of research and the UK actually banned smoking on flights in 1996/1997, so that's exactly in the time that this was filmed, and before that you probably could legally smoke on flights. But this woman's response was still pretty unhinged. But what I love even more is the flight attendant's response, who was called BJ, and he was known for being very funny and sassy to the passengers.
You've just sold me my money for 600 fags and I can't smoke one. Why?
Listen, I take your point, but they sell condoms in Boots. Need I say more?
Just in case any of you don't know, Boots is a British pharmacy chain, so what BJ is saying is that although you can buy condoms in Boots, that doesn't mean that you can have intercourse in the store. Which is such a great response, and you can see that his response really diffused the situation with humour, and even the Adidas woman realised that she was being a bit stupid. And just for good measure, here is another great clip of BJ from the same episode.
There was this lady who was offered a drink, and she said, "Oh yes, I'll have a G&T. That's a gin and tonic to you, dear." And this stewardess, quick as a flash, just said, "Would you like ice and a slice? That's frozen water and a piece of fruit to you."
Missing your flight twice. One of the most common issues on airline was people missing their flight, and this often led to a lot of angry people. And in the wise words of this posh lady,
missing a flight is just one of the worst things that can ever happen to you. It can be really seriously awful for people.
However, some people take missing their flight to the extreme, such as this next family. We're in Belfast Airport, and this clip comes from Series 9, Episode 8. The McGovern family has missed not only one flight, but the second one as well.
Missed that flight and all.
Because you've already had a free transfer, the only way that you can go on the later flight is to buy whole new seats.
Well, that monitor that we were sat next to needs checking out then, because it's
But
giving
you
wrong
are told to
information.
be at the gate.
And so yeah, this family are not only dumb enough to miss 2 flights in a row, but now they're claiming that the reason they missed the flight is because the flight monitor screen isn't working properly.
Having been quoted over £1,000 for the 30-minute flight back to Liverpool, Sean McGovern isn't happy.
I mean, £1,000 is a crazy amount of money for just a 30-minute flight, but to be fair, it is this family's fault that they missed the flight twice, so when it's your own carelessness, you do have to pay the price, literally.
That monitor is obviously incorrect. Bottom line is, whoever's responsible for that monitor is responsible for us missing our flight.
I hate to break this to you, my friend, but it is your fault.
If it's my fault and my mistake, I'd hold my hand up and pay whatever it costs to get home. That's my own stupid fault.
Anyway, the supervisor, Stephen Smith, comes to investigate this apparent issue with the monitor, and this Stephen guy is such a legend on Airline, and he has the most Irish accent possible, which just makes anything he says sound so much better.
This is a printout from that screen up there, and the flight left at 19:30.
1930? Well, what's going on then?
You delayed it by 20 minutes.
So even though this guy has been shown the evidence that it was his own mistake, he still isn't taking responsibility for his own stupidity, despite what he said earlier.
If it's my fault and my mistake, I'd hold my hand up and pay whatever it costs to get home. That's my own stupid fault.
And to top it all off, we hear from Mr. Irish Accent himself that they actually delayed the flight for the family originally to try and find them. So there really is no excuse for this family.
It makes me feel very, very bitter.
He shouldn't feel very, very bitter. He should feel very, very stupid. And even though it was entirely the family's fault, the airline are even kind enough to give them a lower ticket price of £25 per person, but the family are still not satisfied.
Can you guarantee we're going to get on it?
I'm just going to have a look.
What would it be?
But what I find even more annoying about this clip is that they didn't even say thank you to the lovely Irish Stephen.
We actually saved them about £750 there, but I don't know whether they didn't realise or whatever, but they just didn't say thank you, but that happens.
I can't believe Stephen handled this situation so well and with such grace. I'm not sure many people could have kept their cool with people like that. But Stephen, you're clearly just built different. What an Irish legend. Stranded after boat sinking. We're now over in Liverpool Airport, and this clip comes from Series 5, Episode 3. Leanne Chung, who became very known for her no-nonsense approach on Airline, is dealing with quite a strange situation that I don't think I've ever heard of on the show before. So they find out that these two men are fishermen from the Ivory Coast in West Africa, and they were on board a trawler boat which capsized just off the coast of Blackpool in the UK, and all 13 people on board managed to escape unharmed.
Some have remained in Blackpool, but these two men now want to return to their home in Spain.
All the details and the belongings have obviously gone down with the boat, but they came as a group of 4 and 2 of them had a residency card for Spain, but these 2 gentlemen don't have any documentation whatsoever. Do you have somewhere to stay? Hotel.
And I can't help but feel slightly sorry for these two men, because it seems like they were told that their visas would be sorted, but they actually aren't. They then get a check-in assistant called Vanessa, who speaks Spanish, to come and help figure out the visa situation with the Spanish authorities. And this Vanessa lady has such a funny mix of a Spanish but also Liverpudlian Scouse accent, which is a mix that I've never heard before.
If they don't have a work permission, they won't get a visa, so they need to go to the Spanish embassy in Manchester and see what can happen. Until then, they won't be able to travel.
And it turns out that the company that employed these two men misled them about their visa, which now means that these two men are basically trapped in the UK for the time being unless they can sort this out.
The person was responsible told them, oh, it's no problem, you can travel to Spain. He booked the flight tickets. He actually paid for a taxi to take them to the airport. And basically, I think he just wanted to get rid of them.
So this is a pretty crazy situation, and if it's true that these two men were lied to and now they're trapped in another country, I do feel really bad for them. And now we're back to Spanish Scouse accent hybrid Vanessa, who doesn't seem very optimistic that these two fishermen will actually be able to get a visa in time for their flight tomorrow.
But what I'm worried about is that that visa won't be able to be done by tomorrow, because, I mean, there's not enough time. And I spoke with the Spanish embassy, it's impossible.
And in the end, we find out that the two fishermen went back to a hotel in Blackpool, where 2 of their fellow crewmen were staying, and they were never seen at Liverpool Airport again. So I guess we'll never know if they got back home safely again or not. And although the two men were actually quite nice and seemed to be very grateful for the help they were getting, unlike a lot of other people on Airline, this was definitely one of the more unusual situations that we saw on Airline UK. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of sad that we never got to see the resolution. Missing a funeral due to traffic. We've heard lots of excuses over the years of Airline of why people have missed their flights, and bad traffic and getting to the airport late is often the reason. And that's the case in this particular incident, which was at Luton Airport and comes from Series 7, Episode 7. These two Italian passengers, Rosanna and Luigi, which by the name are great names, have missed their flight to Italy for Rosanna's father's funeral.
It's half an hour now before and it doesn't take half an hour for us to get on the flight. My daddy just died.
He's right to go.
I need to go to the airport, to Italy, for the funeral tomorrow morning.
And I do really sympathise with this lady because if she is going to miss her father's funeral, that would be really gutting. However, it does seem like perhaps they should have left a bit longer for their travel to get to the airport.
Can you ask somebody?
I can't ask. The aircraft is fully boarded, the doors are closed.
But we're wasting time here. We've been waiting 5 minutes already. We could have been on there.
And then this happens, which makes me feel really sorry for this poor bloke from EasyJet.
A relieved Lisa has been called away, leaving colleague Adrian to sort things out.
It turns out that they're actually flying to Nice, France, and I assume that they will then drive over the border into Italy, but the next Nice flight isn't until the next day.
It's the only option we've got, I'm afraid, if you want to get to Nice.
No, go to 7 o'clock for us in the morning.
If I get there too late, it cannot be done. The only thing is I wanted to see my dad before the buried him.
Yeah, I understand that.
God, I do feel sorry for this poor EasyJet worker guy because that's a hard situation to say no to. Although, Rosanna's pity soon turns into frustration that she'll not only miss her father's funeral, but she's also lost £200 for the tickets.
Can we have the money back then? No, you mean not only I'm going to be so upset not to see my dad and also losing £200.
I'll put it in the pipe. I'll put it right in the pipe. I'll put it right in the pipe. This company. I can't put it in the pipe tomorrow. EasyJet is.
But regardless of the sadness of the situation, I always find it so funny when people threaten to write to the newspapers as if them missing their flight due to their own lateness is some kind of national news. We then find out that the EasyJet workers have tried to ask dispatch if they will accept Rosanna and Luigi on the flight, which hasn't left yet, but they are told no. And Rosanna delivers this absolute cracker of a line.
Unfortunately, he wasn't here on time.
Well, my dad didn't give me the time when he was dying, was it?
Luigi also doesn't seem to understand that there is such a thing as traffic in the air.
They wouldn't get home.
I don't believe that. We'll travel late about two hours.
Yeah, if we lose our slot, because there's lots of traffic up in the air. It's like the M1.
No traffic in the air.
Of course there is. There's lots of
no,
planes
so waiting for the people.
It's not to do with the people. There's lots of traffic up in the sky, sir.
Yeah.
Rosanna and Luigi ultimately decide to leave, and I just love the EasyJet workers' passive-aggressive "have a good day."
This is the last chance for this.
Down to
For this
yourself,
to come.
sir.
I'll put it in the pipe tomorrow.
That's your choice,
EasyJet
sir.
is.
That's your choice, then. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye, sir.
And we find out in the end that Rosanna and Luigi spent the night at the airport and got the flight the next day, and Rosanna's family delayed the funeral by 2 hours so that Rosanna could make it and say goodbye to her father. And I guess we'll never know if Luigi did manage to make national news by talking to the papers. Lads arrive late. Our final clip comes from Luton Airport and comes from Series 5, Episode 9.
A group of friends travelling to Aberdeen for a lads' weekend have become separated. 3 of them checked in, but 2 arrived late.
And apparently this lad, named Sydney, in a very fetching outfit, is also very well versed in the legalities of arriving late for your own flight.
If I can't hear my name being called once, and it goes, I will sue this company.
Yeah, of course you will. Apparently, Sydney had already checked in, but then he came back from departures to try and help his other 2 lad friends and help convince EasyJet to let them on the flight. And I just love the way that this lady named Kirsty is just looking at this guy. If looks could kill, he would be a goner.
We could just all go through with the luggage if you just gave us the tickets, but none of you want to do that.
No, if you
no, we won't do it because someone's just told you not to do it because you want to be really
because they're in
awkward.
charge there, not because they've just told us not to
No,
do it.
I know
They're
you're
in
doing what you're
charge.
told. I know you're doing what you're told.
And the cherry on top of this entire exchange is when Sydney finds out that because he left departures, he might also miss the flight himself.
Well, you're telling me my stuff's offloaded. Are you telling me my stuff's offloaded? No, but are you telling me my stuff is
Your
offloaded?
supervisor's not doing nothing constructive.
No, I
is he?
didn't, because I instructed the lady, and the lady gave me permission to come back through with a
Speak to my
ticket.
supervisor
get
when
us.
they come downstairs.
Well, you're saying my ticket's offloaded.
I mean, this woman has just absolutely clearly had it with these guys, and I'm living for the facial expressions she's giving them. Kirsty then brings in the big guns, Supervisor Graham, who has equally had it with these entitled lads, and lays down the law.
I'm going to get into basically the bottom line is if you want to travel, you have a boarding pass. If you wish to travel, you need to go down to the aircraft. If you don't want to travel, then we're going to offload you.
But Sydney decides to leave his two friends and catch the last Aberdeen flight of the day, but then in a delicious twist of fate, this happens.
But he's too late. The flight is leaving. The only hope is for all three to try and get seats on another flight to Scotland.
And to top it all off...
And on his flight from Scotland, Sydney's luggage was damaged.
I guess that's what you call cosmic justice for being rude to airline staff. So there you go, there were 5 unhinged passenger moments from Airline UK. Let me know in the comments if you liked this video and if you want me to do more Airline UK content. And please make sure you like, comment and subscribe to support this channel. Thanks again, and I hope you'll join me in future videos. Thank you, bye!